Well, I'm not sure where all these free handouts are. Yeah, some of the mythology that's out there in mainstream Australia is quite weird at times. Housing is built, it's public housing, and people pay rent for it. Vehicles might be granted to an Aboriginal corporation for the purpose of a program. Jobs, yeah, there's some discrimination around jobs. So, is positive discrimination a good thing or a bad thing? Well, I've thought about this one long and hard, and I don't have to think about it too long, because if you've been discriminated against as a cultural group of people, you've had your land taken off you, you've been massacred, still today where the dominant culture uses derogatory names about your culture rather than the true scientific names, and I don't mean anthropological names, they can be as derogatory as any of them. I mean true naming of the people's culture, that they have a legal system, that they have their languages are great and so forth, instead of the mainstream naming of their culture, which becomes like a weapon against the people. Continually push that, and we hear it in some of these questions where those weapons that have been applied against the people all the time. When you've suffered from discrimination for 200 years, I don't think a bit of positive discrimination is too bad. You talk to kids, say in central New South Wales, Aboriginal kids, and everybody in town calls their community, what's it called, the Vegemite village or the Vegemite, you know? And they're sick. You know, everybody knows that, oh, you live up in the Vegemite village or whatever it is. And those kids go to school and they get discriminated against by mainstream kids in that classroom. Now what, they're going to get some positive discrimination later on to get them into a job to try and break the cycle? I don't have a problem with it. What goes around comes around. You know, mainstream Australia, mainstream colonial Australia has been nothing but absolutely disgusting in its treatment of the original Australian people right from the beginning. Now, when I come to Arnhem Land 40, 50 years ago, I didn't think that was the case. But now I'm totally convinced that's the case. Mainstream Australia continues to marginalise and push culture, Aboriginal culture down. It continues to name it with derogatory terms. It continues to create the problem. So a bit of positive discrimination in some areas I think is good. I wish we had a bit more positive discrimination where they said we're going to give some real good empowering education to people. Not education for certificates. No guys, we're not talking about that. We're talking about real education so that people could understand the mainstream. So they can come up to here as equals. You know, that they're down here and they're marginalised, they're out here. And the people they have the most contact with is the police and other service people, you know, mopping up the mess that mainstream Australia has created. Can we have some programs that will bring people up to an equal, so we can be equal citizens in Australia? We won't have a group of people that spend all their life in fights and arguments with the police or being picked up by ambulances. We can actually have a community which has equal experience. That can be done if we do some good community education around community development principles of building up a community. At the moment they're down here, things are being done to them, and that creates a lot of jobs for these people here. They're really busy. They're all getting jobs with government money, and nobody says, oh, that's free government money. Bureaucrats in Australia that are employed to service Aboriginal people, there are thousands of them. In the Northern Territory, a whole industry, Aboriginal industry. Nobody talks about that. We just talk about some discrimination down here. Well, let's have a bit more discrimination down here and do some good programs to get people back up here. Yeah, I don't have any trouble with that.